Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Paws in Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. So, happy Wednesday, everyone. Today, I have a very exciting guest. I'm going to be talking to Nic Jones all about progressing your judging career in agility. As you guys know, I recently became a judge myself and went through that process. So, this conversation is going to be super helpful for all of you that want to get into judging. And those that are already a judge and are looking to take the next steps. Nic's going to be talking about her time judging at Crufts in the main arena, judging the champ classes, which is, I'm so excited to hear about that because to me that is absolutely insane. But yeah, thank you so much to Nic for coming on and having this conversation with me, and I hope you guys all find it really useful. So let's get into the conversation. I'm assuming everyone listening already knows who you are, but for those who don't, do you want to just introduce yourself, what you do?
Yep, okay, so I'm Nic Jones. I'm first and foremost an agility competitor. I'm also an agility judge. I'm also a Kennel Club Championship agility judge, and I'm a Kennel Club accredited trainer for agility judges.
Cool, all the things.
All
So the first question is, how old were you when you started doing agility, and how many years have you been doing it for now?
Oh, it's very rude.
It is, isn't it? Very nosy.
16 years old, so just last week, really, which means I've been doing agility 32 years this summer. Flipping heck.
Wow.
So yes, probably how many years before you were even born, Summer?
Well, I'm 22 this July, so you've been doing agility 10 years before I was born.
Oh, great.
Wow. And I turned 20 and I thought I was getting old. Wow. I bet you've seen it change a lot in that time.
Yeah, a heck of a lot. All
Yeah.
for the good, mostly for the good.
Yes. Yeah.
90%. I can't off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that's been a bit, well, maybe the emphasis is not as it was. Things have become a lot more professional, understandably. Has that detracted for it? If you let it detract, I suppose.
Yes, very true.
No, I think obviously safety and everything like that, definitely very positive changes in those years. So when I started, we jumped at 2'6".
Oh, wow.
Which for those in old or new money is something like 75 centimetres, I think.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and I think they had a medium height. I wasn't not quite old enough before they introduced small and medium. Yeah, it was called mini and midi, which was very confusing.
Okay. They still use that somewhere. Is it WAO they use mini and midi, or UKA or something?
Might be, yeah.
Yeah,
So we had it ages, which, like I say, was very confusing on the tannoy. And then obviously heights got brought down to 65 centimetres for the large dogs. Can't even remember when that was. And then obviously more recently 60 centimetres, and then the intermediate height, 3 years ago?
Wow, so it's gone down 15 centimetres then for large, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot.
That's like half a ruler.
Yeah.
There you go. That much. Doesn't look that much.
Wow. It doesn't look that much, but I bet it actually feels like it for the dogs, 100%.
Huge. So, yeah, lots of changes. And I suppose practically, logistically, much, much better. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the next one is, how old were you when you became a judge, and how many years have you been judging for?
I was first asked to judge in either 2000 or 2001. So what does that make me? 25 or 26.
Okay.
And how many years does that make it? So that's 2000. At least 22 years I've been judging. Bloody.
Okay. So you have been judging for my lifetime, yeah, because I was born in 2001.
Yep. Yeah, Shrewsbury Dog Club, which was a kennel club near me, asked me to judge at their May Bank Holiday show all those years ago.
Wow. Has there been a lot of changes in judging then, as much as agility, from when you started, or is it pretty much all the same sort of rules and regulations?
Well, obviously, everybody updates themselves with that. They just follow the new rules and regulations. And obviously, course design is another massive change.
Yes, definitely.
Be so. Yeah, so once you're out there, you find it the same whether I'm back in 2000 or when did I last judge? I judged a few weeks ago for Inspire show. So yeah, once you're out there, it's not really that different.
Yeah, I suppose you don't really notice it really, over time, do you? It's when you look back, you kind of think, oh wow.
Changes are course design, but it's following trend. using your increased knowledge.
Yes.
So we did what we and now hope.
Yeah, that's very true. So number 3 is, why did you want to become a judge? So what made you want to go from being a competitor to actually wanting to judge agility?
There was a little bit attached to it. Ooh, they're big.
Yes, yeah.
There's a little. I'll always do this. Whatever hobby I get into, whatever thing I undertake. So when I was a hockey player, I became an umpire as well. I got did I get to my coaching? Yeah, I got some of my coaching qualifications. So it just seemed the natural progression. Back then, before any exams and whatnot, you were just asked on invite. And once you got a little bit more known, maybe once you got a little bit more successful, people were able to ask you to judge.
Ah, I see.
So, yeah, I've never... Oh, should I admit this? Maybe not. Yeah, no, I haven't. I've recently sat my exam because you have to update it every 5 years. But I was one of the group. We call it grandfather rights. So we were allowed to continue judging because it had been agreed to us before the new rule.
Oh,
many moons ago. If you were judging before the rule came in that you have to do the exam, you were allowed to continue judging. But now everybody has to do the exam every 5 years to keep themselves updated.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. So the exam hasn't always been there then?
No. I can't when it came in a good while ago, probably. When did I start teaching the thing?
Is that theory or the practical as well? Just the theory.
So the theory came in some time ago, and the practical came in some time after that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There was no exam.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it just kind of felt like a natural thing to do after you'd been competing for a while.
Absolutely. So people say they want to give a lot back, which absolutely. People say when I teach the course, just to get a feel for it, it's easy being a competitor. What's it like being a judge? Well, it's one thing to be a competitor. What's it like to be a judge? So
yeah. Do you reckon judging's kind of given you a different perspective as far as being a handler goes? Like, do you reckon your handling's improved, or do you reckon it's affected your actual agility when you run? Not when I run,
because I'm quite good at transferring. So whatever hat I need to put on at the time, whether it's my competitor's hat, my judge's hat, I am quite good at putting hats very separate. It does make me very defensive towards judges on social media. Whether I agree with that judge or not, there are ways and means of dealing with any issues that you have. So I will leap on to any discussions that I feel are unfair on judges, because at the end of the day, they're stood in the ring, they've given up their day, so you can run around a field with your dog and jump through hoops.
Yes, this is very true. And I think a lot of people forget that often, like, they're literally stood there from like 7 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Yeah. I get that you've travelled to the show as well as I, as the judge, have travelled to the show. You're spending the day with your dog. I am not spending the day with my dog because I'm judging for you.
And you don't really get to sit down either, do you? You can't go sit down in between runs.
It's a physical day.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
But worth it.
Yeah. So when's your first appointment?
Mine is Dog Sports Derby on the 22nd of May.
Yes, coming up soon.
Yes, very exciting.
Just wondering, what am I doing on the 22nd of May? Because Neil's judging one. Is it the day after?
Yes, I'm taking Arrow to that one. I'm running him. So I'll be judging the first day and then going and competing the next day.
Okay, I've got lessons.
Because I'm doing 1 to 3 and then Neil's doing 6, 7, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. So yeah, that we'll find out. I mean, it's, as a younger person, it should be okay for you, but it can be quite tiring.
Yeah.
When you get used, mentally more so, because it's easy. It's not so hard to stand around and walk around for the day, but it is difficult to keep concentration for however many dogs. And I'll be honest, the lower grade dogs, I find it more tiring because they are more obscure in what they do.
Yes, yeah, very true. And probably take longer as well.
Yeah, easy to judge higher grades. It was quite easy to umpire decent level hockey. It's quite difficult when you get lower grades, younger ages, because they are more random.
Yes, yeah. I never really thought of that, but yeah. I suppose it's just experience, isn't it? And getting used to it. And the more you do, the easier it becomes. But
very much like your driving test. You'll learn more you pass than you did before.
Yeah, 100%. So, number 4 is, how long does it take to become a judge?
Well, in theory, you could do it in a weekend. So you literally just have to attend and pass. So you sit your online exam. The practical test is over 2 days. So in theory, you could pass it in, you could sit your exam on the Friday night, pass your exam on the Sunday afternoon and be done. I've never known anybody do it like that.
No.
They've normally been in agility for a few years, got a bit of experience under their belt. But, literally, logistically, it can be that short, which I know is hugely different to the FCI. I think the FCI take you on a mentor scheme and an apprenticeship scheme over years, I think it is.
Wow, that's a long time. See, I took the theory, and then it was a case of actually waiting for a judging seminar that was near me on a weekend I wasn't already competing. So that's why it took me longer between the two, because it's finding one that's actually available, but...
Yeah, and it's all, how many trainers are there? I think there's about 10 of us trainers, but we're all competitors as well, so everybody's trying to find an available weekend or available time to be able to offer these seminars.
How experienced do you have to be to become a trainer then? I'm assuming you have to have, a judging trainer. I'm assuming you have to have a decent amount of experience, obviously.
Yeah, I don't recall the actual, what do you call it now, job spec. I don't recall that, but I think one of the things that got me, I was able to demonstrate, was my ability to teach. Obviously, I'm a fully qualified secondary school teacher, A-level science. And so for me, it was relatively straightforward to be able to deliver a short presentation on a section that they asked us to prepare for. So because people just think, because this has come up recently about measuring. So-and-so, I've been doing agility for 15 years. I applied to be a measurer and they've said no. You have to jump through the little hoops that say, do you match the job spec?
Yes, yeah. I have heard that recently. Yeah, you're right about measuring.
It's not job spec, but job prof, something like that. But they want to see, and you have to be able to demonstrate and provide evidence of meeting certain competencies. Duration of competing and level of grade at which you're competing is not necessarily going to make you a good measurer and or a good judge's trainer.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because they're completely different tasks at the end of the day,
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even train dogs. I don't train my own dogs. I train people.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's it.
I think people just experience, and this is something that was going to probably come up at another point during this, experience doesn't equate competence just because you've been doing it for 102 years.
Yeah, you might have been doing it wrong for 102 years, so...
So, yeah, people kind of forget that, and it needs to be like that. It needs to be way more professional in its approach.
Yeah, definitely. So, approximately how many judging appointments do you have per year? So, this is one I was actually quite interested in as well, thinking how many, as a judge judging regularly, how many do you reckon you judge more than you compete or vice versa? Or, how consuming is it in your average year?
Okay, it would be very easy to get overwhelmed and accept lots of appointments, but you have to get a little bit disappointed. Because I think of Dr. Doherty. I mean, he does practically one a weekend, bless him, but it works to do this, so that's fine. Personally, I want to compete with my dogs, and I do way more competing than I do judging.
Yes.
This year, what the heck have I done? Obviously, I've done the 3 days at Crufts. I then got dragged in and stepped in when my partner wasn't able to judge for Ruth the other week. I've got one show, another, and then I've got two more champ appointments and another general appointment.
Okay, so not like every single weekend or every other weekend or anything crazy?
Absolutely not. I mean, with our championship appointments, we can't judge the same height within 6 months, so they tend to be at least a few months apart. Unless you've got,
yeah.
But I'm quite careful about because it has in the past. You've just accepted all requests, and then you end up not meeting your own needs. So I'm quite good now at saying yes or no, and I tend to spread them out throughout the year.
Because it's designing the courses for it as well is time consuming. So you'd probably spend the majority of your week designing courses if you had one every weekend.
Yeah. So no, I think it's better for competitors as well. I mean, no disrespect or anything to Doc. I love competing on his courses, and he is very good at creating variety. But you will end up, everybody's a bit like they do in the breed show. Everybody has a judge that sets a particular type or picks a particular type. So I like the variety. Even if that variety doesn't suit me, I still prefer it.
Yes, yeah. And do you reckon there's more judges that, well, obviously that, also do agility or have been doing agility for a long time than, I know, I think it's Doc that doesn't compete, does he? Just judges?
Just judges. I mean, Phil Barber, I don't see him compete much either. Seen him, when he posts his updates about perhaps some training he's done. But those are two people where you don't have to be in the thick of and at the height of the event to be able to set a bloody good test.
Yeah. And a lot of it, I suppose, is like what, through watching agility, you can, get the gist of course design as well as just running it.
Yeah, those two both get it, which is difficult for people that don't get it. And that's where the emphasis is on us trainers to find out how we teach people that don't get it.
Yes, absolutely. It's all about training the person.
To be a good judge.
Yeah, that is very true. And I think something people don't often realise as well.
Yeah.
So how long does it take you to design a course, and does experience speed up this process?
I have a little bit of a different approach to course design, and I'm starting to get very comfortable with it because I've seen the outcome of it. So it doesn't actually take me very long at all. It did for likes of Crufts because there was way more criteria, way more restrictions placed on it. But if you imagine getting a whole set of kit, throwing it up in the air, and then wherever the heck anything lands, I find a course through that.
Yes, I remember you said that on the seminar. Yeah. That was very intriguing.
I mean, obviously, you won't end up with tunnels under contacts if you did that literally. But so I will base on my whichever app I'm using. I'll just go a bit click, finger happy with the mouse and and just plonk pieces of kit on there. Then I'll put in some jumps, and then I'll then start to look for a path through those to give me a course. And tweaking the odd thing if I think, that would be a good line. I just need to tweak the angle of that or something. So I get it done relatively quickly. And I've got enough experience to know whether, because I teach full time, I've got enough experience to know whether certain sequences or certain combinations of obstacles in that placement will work. So
yes. And I suppose when you train as well, like train people, you're setting courses randomly and quite spontaneously when you're doing that as well. So.
But then that does bring, so one of the best course designers that I've ever worked with is Jarkko from Finland. His courses are unreal. They look brilliant. They run brilliant. But then when you look through them, you realise you actually couldn't judge them.
Yes, yeah. And that's why judging path we have to look at, don't we?
Yeah, it's very easy to build a train on. It's very easy to build a course that challenges the dogs and challenges the handlers. But then when you add in the other restrictions, such as, well, can you actually judge it? Then so don't stand on the sidelines saying, well, it would be better if this, that, and the other, because there's way more than what the dog's path is that you have to take into account.
And that's definitely something that before I did the seminar, I never thought about, like where, being able to see contacts and then get to the next one in time, beat the dog to it and stuff like that. That is something I didn't realise,
And I think that's where a lot of people who've come and done the seminar and then who have actually judged suddenly go, actually, it's not as easy as it looks.
Yes, definitely.
Building a course to train on is relatively simple. Building a brilliant course to train on is still relatively simple if you've got the competence and the experience. But then I've done it myself and I've been through all my teaching courses, I'll go, well, could I judge that one? Nope. Could I judge that one? Nope.
Yeah.
Probably only 50% of my course. It wouldn't take me much to tweak to be able to judge on them, but at first glance, no, a lot of my teaching courses you wouldn't be able to judge on them.
Yeah, because course design takes me quite a while at the moment because I literally start I'll put the number one jump in and then do it in order, and then you realise you've left a little gap or something like that, and it does take quite a while. Everybody
will have different ideas or different methods. What I will suggest to people is try other methods just to see. All right. So when I was teaching, the students would say, "Oh, but I tried this when I was revising." So, well, have you tried doing it like this? No. Well, give it a go because actually another method might suit you, or a combination, a fusion of two methods might be the answer.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, hopefully it will get easier as time goes on and experience goes on.
Yeah. I mean, I was never very good at revising at school, so I'm glad I'm at least a little bit better at course design.
Yep.
Never my strongest point. So, also another thing I found is easier. Like, for example, Dog Sports Derby, when I was making my courses, obviously you want to keep the contacts in the same place for the second agility. So it took me forever to make the first agility course. But then the next two, even the jumping, it was quite easy because I was like, well, I'm going to try and keep the obstacles in the same place. So it's more a case of tweaking the numbers.
Yeah.
So that is something that I was like, oh, this is nice.
The testing of courses, I suppose, has been a big change in for judges over the last few years, post-COVID. You know, before COVID, when life was normal, we might only get 2 or 3 classes in a ring. And now you can end up, or 2 or 3 classes in a day. And now I think I've ended up with about 6 or 7.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot.
And whether it will settle back down to what it used to be, I don't know. But at the moment, that's another challenge, because you are not going to be very popular with the ring party or yourself, because you're going to be out there for longer if you want to massively change each course.
Yeah, exactly. And the contacts as well. No one wants to carry an A-frame halfway across the ring.
And also you start to impact on the competitors, because you can guarantee there'll be one competitor who's in the first class in your ring, and then because you're doing these massive changes, isn't going to be stuck there till 6, 8 o'clock if they want to run the second class in their second run in your ring, which is at the end.
So as far as ring party goes, this is just a little extra question I've just thought of. Do shows usually provide ring party, or have you got to the point now where you kind of have people that always ring party for you, you know, where they can?
No, because they all go and do their own thing, which is fine. So sometimes I'll be able to bring a scribe, particularly some of my champ classes. You know, I quite often get people volunteering to scribe for me. But regards to the rest of the ring party, no, I don't know. That's on the show to provide that. Yeah,
because that's something I was thinking. I was like, oh, do I have to like ask around and find like 5 people to help me? But no.
Literally, you could, and as long as they'll ask you, and if you just say no, can't do, you can literally just turn up as your own self. The rest of the ring is up to the show to provide.
Yeah, that's good. Takes a lot of the stress off, I suppose.
Yeah, anything you do provide obviously is much appreciated and helps the club, but no, you're not expected to do anything like that. Literally just turn up with your plans and judge for the day.
Yeah, nice and straightforward. So, talking of course design then, so what is the most important aspect of course design in your opinion?
Safety.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a thing that if you as a judge have set something that requires the handler to do X, Y, Z, and then it's safe, then that course is not safe.
Yes.
Right? So if you want to challenge a handler and make them do something that you want to see, that's absolutely fine. But the fallout for that handler not doing it is that the dog is faulted or eliminated. It's not injured.
Yes. Yeah.
And contacts, but So absolutely safety for the dog, safety for the handler as well. You know, sometimes I build something and realise, no, they're going to take their head off on the seesaw. So that has to change. But absolutely safety. And then after that, I suppose you'd look at, most important aspect, definitely safety, suitability, as we call it.
The grades.
To the grade and the challenge.
And the height, I suppose, would you say, as well? Like, I think, did you say, you know, set it for large dogs first because their strides are bigger and stuff like that?
Heine, the Norwegian lady who Laura had over at Dog Sports a few months ago, she spoke to my partner. So my partner's got a brilliant large. He's not a large Mallee, but he's obviously a large dog compared to collies. And Heine says if she sees a large Mallee or fast Mallee go around the course and it looks comfortable for him, then she knows she's done a good job.
Yes, yeah.
And I quite like that approach, thinking, that would work. Obviously, smaller dogs will turn tighter usually. So if you're using turns to get onto, let's say, a contact, then you'd have to adjust it, you know, for the smaller dogs or whichever one you started out, you need to make adjustments. But spaces in between the rings, in between the obstacles, no, I tend to keep it at about 7 metres.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever find you have to adjust it between heights a lot at shows, or do you usually manage to just keep it exactly the same and just change the height?
I can usually just change the height, but I'm more than happy to make a tweak if I think, actually, I just need to kick that out a bit further or swing this in a bit closer. And I saw Ryan Hennessy do that at Iconics last year. That was blinking brilliant.
Yeah.
First class or whichever class it was, the positioning of the jump just didn't quite get them where he wanted them to go. And as soon as that class, it wasn't dangerous, absolutely. You know, just a little bit ugly, I suppose you call it. But as soon as the class was finished, he tweaked it. Brilliant. Loved it.
And I suppose you often don't really know how it's going to run until you see it. So after the first class, you get a way better idea of actually how the dogs are going to run.
If you haven't got enough experience, then you should be testing out some things if you've got the ability to do so. Like I said, I've got enough experience, and the way that my mind works, so I'm quite good at, once I see something on paper or on the script, I can replicate that for my, for 3D in my...
Yeah.
See it on the ground as such to know that it won't work.
I suppose that's another thing, how different would you say your courses often actually lay out in the real world as opposed to paper? Do they actually end up being quite different, or?
They have historically, definitely, and then Amanda talked through coordinates to build a course, and now they're getting way more closer to the paper than they are than they used to.
Okay, yeah. Is it smarter agility you use for your courses?
I do.
Yeah.
I use Clean Run, but then Clean Run died when one of the Macs updated their operating system, and I never upgraded my Clean Run. And then Smarter Agility came along, and like everything, you just have to take a little bit of time to get used to it.
Yeah.
But I do much prefer Smarter, although Smarter and Clean Run need to sort out their dog's path, because dogs will not naturally square up to jumps.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you can adjust the path, can't you? You can change the lines, but I suppose some people might not realise you can do that.
And then they get this misconception that, well, the path on the app looks good, so I'm assuming it's going to be that in real life, and we'll talk about it in the seminar. But
yeah.
There is a thought that it is responsible for some bad lines because people don't appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I used a random, I can't even remember what it was, to make my courses for the seminar, and it was quite hard work, but then I was like, oh, Smarter Agility exists, and it is I do find it a lot easier, but...
Now that I know how it works, like everything, once you get used to a new app, you wonder how you used to use the old version. So yeah, I like Smarter.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So someone said that they loved your facial expressions at Crufts and want to know, how does it feel to judge at the world's biggest dog show?
Okay, it was scary as hell.
Yes, I can imagine.
I can say I enjoyed it after the event, and there was I wasn't disliking it, and I wasn't wishing I wasn't there, but it was definitely stressful.
I can imagine.
Not so much the TV and that didn't really bother me so much, but just this idea that, we all know how much effort people put into things, and if I cock it up when I'm running my own dog, that's only me and my dog that are affected. Made a mistake in my course plan or course design, or if I've made a mistake in judging, then that's somebody else that I've affected, and they've gone an awful long way to get to where they are.
Yeah.
So very scary, but enjoyable and very satisfying to have come through it.
Yes. So it wasn't really, being on TV and all the audience that was scary. It was, wanting to build the best course.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like so many things in life, and I hope competitors find this. Once you get on the start line, no matter where the hell you are, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. You don't think about anything else, do you?
Exactly that. And I've competed, like many of us, I've competed all over. And once you're on that, you set up for the first jump, you could be anywhere. And I think the same for judging. Once you get the flow going, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
For me, I know other people are affected like that. So
yeah, very true. So how long did it take? How many years of Crufts have you judged at?
So I did the juniors or YKC in 2019. We were meant to do, so my original appointment was 2021. Obviously things all got, what happened in that year? Yeah, that was the one that was originally postponed to the July, and then all together.
And then it just didn't happen.
Yeah. So then my appointment got carried forward. And I think both of us, all three of us, so myself, Gary and Rob, it just all carried forward to 2023.
I was just thinking, I'll have been competing in the YKC ring in 2019. It's a long time ago, but it'll be with Ethel, yeah.
Yeah, a Border Terrier. Yeah. I don't remember some individuals, so don't be offended by it. But I remember some individuals in a good way because of some things that I heard afterwards. So yeah, so it does. The process is long. So I've already got a prestigious appointment for, what year is it? 2025.
Oh wow, that's a lot. No. Well, that sounds like such a long time away, but it's not, is it? It's only 2 years.
Yeah. In advance, the Kennel Club have to make these arrangements for their prestigious events.
Oh, okay. So the next one is, what is your dream show to judge at or class to judge? So obviously I reckon for most people it is Crufts, but you've already done that. So what, if you could judge at one show or just one class even at a show, what would you love to do?
I'd quite like to go and do Westminster in the US. So that Westminster is the US version of, what were we talking about? Crufts.
Ah, okay.
The American Kennel Club they call it Westminster. It's in New York. Mm-hmm. Just because the Americans are a bit mad and it's all very glitzy and glamoury.
Yes, yeah.
So we have, I think Andrew Dickers, is he doing it again this year? He certainly has done it in the past. Steve Croxford's done it in the past. But yeah, just for the kind of showbiz type feel of that one. Not that, I mean, Crufts is showbizy, but it's British showbiz and American showbiz are two very different things.
Absolutely, yeah. I can imagine the atmosphere.
Yeah. Do I want to do some of the big events? Possibly.
Is there any classes? Like, I'm assuming you've already do Champ and Olympias, I suppose.
I do stay away from any obscure things. So I don't do snooker or gamblers because I struggle enough as a competitor to do those courses.
Oh, God, yeah.
I judge them. I did do time fault now, but that's kind of a way more straightforward games type class. Mm-hmm. I like all classes and I like all grades. So although I get asked to do Champ, when I'm doing a normal show, as it were, I do ask if I can do the lower grade classes because that's the hardest one to set the course for, and I think they're the ones that need the biggest help.
Yeah, definitely. And I bet most people think the higher grades are the hardest ones to set for and judge, but it's often not the case.
No, not at all. Well, that's not my experience. Dismiss anybody else's views. You know, it tends to be the decisions you have to make are way more obvious. You know, they give you, it's a good contact or it's not a good contact. The random things they do is rare. Whereas lower grades, everything that can happen will happen.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same. In when I was umpiring hockey, you know, you had 22 kids around the ball, and you hadn't got a clue what was going on.
Yeah,
especially lower grades, you have to be a bit more careful for sportsmanship. Mm-hmm. So umpiring the higher level hockey, it was all about deliberate fouls and things like that. And I am aware of some deliberate actions that I would be looking for in the higher grades in agility.
Yes, very true. So
the
back
lovely, to naive lower grade handlers who haven't yet got cynical and wise to the rule are quite easier in that respect.
Very true. Yeah. So back to the just quickly the Westminster. Are the rules, because I've absolutely never looked into like agility in other countries. Obviously, I've been to EOJ, but I've never thought, you know, is everything the same then as far as like rules and regs for agility and judging?
Give or take, yeah. I mean, oh God, so America has, what do they call it? They call it a venue, I think. Mm-hmm. By that they mean organisation. Okay. They've got about 4 or 5 of them, and some of them do. So UKI is America's version of UKA, so we know those rules. Mm-hmm. There was one, I can't remember which blinking association I was running under, but they have some obscure rules, so you just have to really read up.
Yeah.
But the kind of probably 80% of the rules are the same. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we all run the same courses at like EO and stuff like that, so it's got to be around the same, but...
Yeah, I mean, and my course design wouldn't necessarily alter greatly for another organisation's event.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you still feel nervous before a judging appointment? So you already said that Crufts was scary, but like in general, do you still get that sort of nerves?
A little bit, because even though I've planned my judge's route, until you've done about half a dozen or 10 or so dogs, it's not yet settled. So until I'm comfortable with it and comfortable where I'm positioning and what I'm making sure I can see, then there's a little bit of tension, I suppose. Not necessarily nerves, but just a little bit of tension until that settles, and then the rest of the day crack on.
Yeah. I mean, like when I did the seminar in the practical exam, the first few I was sort of more uneasy, and then I was like, oh no, this is actually all right. And then you really get into it, and then I was thinking, I could do like 30 more.
Yeah. It's a bit like warming up, isn't it? You could do with a few dogs that don't NFC runs almost to warm up on, and then go in with the actual competitive dogs. But yeah,
I suppose then you, as well, after a few dogs, you're like you said, your judging path is like confirmed. You're like, yep, I can definitely see everything. I'll keep doing that, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. That's nice to know that there is still a little bit of that, though, you know, for everyone, no matter the level.
I am still a bit more nervous if I'm doing a big appointment, or a qualifier or something, because the handlers are going to be a little bit more nervous, and there's a little bit more resting on the outcome, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then, we don't know what people are going through. So somebody who's just returned from major injury themselves or major life event themselves, grade 4 jumping class can be as nerve-wracking for them. So
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I guess you feel like there's less room for error in sort of like maybe champ and stuff like that and qualifiers.
There's more. There's a greater fallout for error.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So, talking of errors, have you ever made a judging error? And if so, how did you deal with it?
Absolutely, I've made errors. But it says they haven't is lying.
Yes.
So, because we're all blinking human. I've done it on a hockey pitch, blew my whistle, put my arms up, and then I had the 2 teams and my opposing umpire looking at me questionably because I'd got the wrong arm up.
Oh, no.
Absolutely. So as soon as I realise I've made the error, I'll rectify it, and I will also check in with the scribe to make sure they picked up that clarification. And if I've given you a fault and you've realised that fault, you might well have changed your handling afterwards.
Yes. Yeah, true.
And then I will approach the handler and also offer them a rerun.
Yeah, because often people, and I've done it, where if you get a fault or eliminated, you kind of go into training mode in a way, don't you? With your handling, you're less careful.
So if I feel that could have influenced the handler, then I will give them an opportunity to rerun that.
Yeah.
And take a beef at me making an error, well, that's up to them. I'm not gonna. I'm human. I've made an error. I've done my best to rectify it. Deal with that.
Yeah. So you're giving them the best case scenario really, and then everything else I suppose is out of your hands. Is how you think about it. If they want to be
expecting perfection, then unfortunately they're not going to get that.
Yeah, very true. I suppose having that mindset and taking the pressure off yourself is a way to deal with it before it's even happened really as well.
Obviously, I'm doing my best not to have the errors in the first place, but we are human. I will apologise and I'll move on, and if hopefully they can too. But
do you reckon it happened more when you were sort of newer to judging, because mistakes are more frequent for newer judges, or around the same?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's been that long ago, I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, true.
I can remember certainly, a couple of ones. I probably use them as examples on the seminar. So I docked a dog on his contact. A few dogs later, I didn't dock it on his contact, but then I thought, hang on a minute, I'm sure that was in exactly the same place as the previous dog that I faulted.
Oh.
So I called that person back and said, look, do you want a rerun or do you want me to just take the faults off? I think that's what I offered. Yeah, and she was happy with that because I know it would have affected her handling once she realised she'd been faulted on the dog walk.
Yeah, so it's just having that awareness, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, and being able to and wanting to do something about it.
Yeah, instead of just brushing it off.
Yeah, somebody once told me, a very wise hockey coach once told me, it's not the mistake you make, it's what you do afterwards that counts.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't make the same mistake twice because that's daft.
Yeah, and I remember at KCI, I think I've had this happen to me like twice, I think, with Arrow, but at KCI, I was eliminated even though it was a clear. But what I didn't realise at the time was that judges aren't allowed to watch video footage, or they're not. Yep. Do you know what I mean? You're not meant to. So I was trying to get this judge to watch my video, and she was like, no. And then, but at the time, I thought, why not? Do you know what I mean? But then now, obviously, I know the rules of it. I'm like, oh, she literally couldn't.
Yeah, no. So we don't, and also, and I want to swear, but I can't swear. Stuff happens, and and for as many times as you've got been faulted for something, you'll have got away with it equally.
Yeah, exactly. Swings and roundabouts.
Yep. So.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And as well, on that day, it was very hot and a very long day, so potentially that may have caused that error, but. Yeah, I suppose as well with video footage, like not everyone gets their runs filmed. So
true, and also if people are trying to use a video to highlight a contact that was wrongly judged, then nonsense. The video's at a different angle. Video, it's very easy to watch back on a video and slow it down, and we've seen this a few times on Facebook. They've put the video up and then they've taken a screenshot, and when they've paused the video, and of course we can see the dog's foot touching the contact.
Yeah.
in reality, who's to say the judge didn't blink at that moment, for heaven's sake?
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, we don't have slow-mo vision, so...
Yeah. And I don't know that I want, a bit like VAR in football, I don't know that I want it. I think the human element of judging is part of the sport.
Yeah, it sort of turns it a bit mechanical and forced almost, doesn't it?
Up there, just...
Do you reckon that'll ever be a thing in agility?
If we could ever get the technology good enough, so even things like at the moment, so the start and finish timers, it was pointed out that the thousandth of a second is actually a random number because we don't have the accuracy on the equipment or the precision to be able to make that thousandth number valid, but the cost of the technology is prohibitive.
Yes, yeah, that's very true.
Why can't we have this? Why can't we have that? Because it costs a fortune.
Yeah, where are they going to get the money?
And then when you up to the rings that you need for an event, come from.
Especially KCR, where you've got like 16 rings.
Yeah. So and one of the things about the UK agility, hugely relative in expense. So what are we paying? £5 a class? God, that sounds awful. I don't know. Now that everything's online,
something like that.
It's about £4.50, £5 a class, and so that is accessible to a bigger amount of people. So when I've competed in the US, my entries for a weekend's competition, all right, it was over 3 days, but I still didn't enter every event, and I had 2 dogs, and my entry fees were $400.
Wow.
So
yeah, it is not a cheap hobby.
And then, whereas we are massively accessible and inclusive here.
Yeah, definitely.
Which way to go?
I usually don't like to look too much into how much a show is. I'm just like, well, I want to do it, so I'm just going to press enter.
In the days when you used to have to write a check, we were a bit more aware, but now it's just click and it's gone, and the money's gone out of your account.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah.
So what makes a good judge in your opinion? So if you had the perfect, or well, I won't say perfect, if you had, a good judge in front of you, what qualities would you be looking for whilst judging?
So what makes a good judge? That's a good question. What makes a good judge? Who is up to date?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, so I don't like judges that set traps. I don't want to trap. I don't want to see anybody fail, but I like to think of it as like I want to give people the opportunity to impress and to shine. So I don't go in it with, well, this will get the so-and-so dogs and this will get the long striding dogs. No, not at all. So somebody who keeps themselves up to date, obviously they have to be knowledgeable in their rules. What makes it?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because there's so many things.
What think about good judge? I won't mention any names, but so what do I like about this person? So they're very approachable. They've got great ideas on course design. I've seen this person set a course. The first few dogs ran it, realised the line onto, I think it was the A-frame, wasn't great. Stopped the class, changed it, adjusted it. So is humble enough to do that. Yes. Humility in judges. Imagine we could have some humility in handlers. Chicken and egg scenario. Which one's going to come first?
Definitely.
Humility and openness. I think, so I've got this one, like I said, I can visualise this one judge. Very polite, very engaging.
Another thing as well, just quickly. Sorry.
They're up to date and quite modern on their course design, despite of their relative lack of experience in competition.
So as well, this is something we touched on at the seminar, and I can never say the word properly, but judging etiquette. So how, so sort of like how the judge presents themselves, how they dress and stuff like that. I think a lot of the time people, again, we spoke about in the seminar, like dress code and stuff like that. Like how important do you think all of that side of it is?
I do believe it's quite important due to human psychology, and I don't think so. I think at that seminar I discussed, so my partner is an occupational psychologist, so what is the psychology, what's the science behind why it is better to dress smartly in certain occasions, and I think the kind of thing I took from our conversation was we don't have relationships with all the competitors.
Yes.
So you don't know my expectations. I don't know your expectations. I don't have relationships with my students when I start teaching them in September. So I want to give an impression of someone who is competent, confident, who has made an effort, is professional.
Yeah. First impressions, isn't it, really?
I mean, get to know. So once my students at college know me, then relax a little bit in my, I'll maybe start wearing jeans as opposed to smart trousers.
You've already established yourself then, I suppose.
We have that working relationship between us, but you don't have that in agility. You have it with also my, at club I could go along and I can be wearing my scruffy shoes and all my usual, and I know people, they know me, and we have enough respect for each other without the need for appearances. But
yes,
on a judging day, you don't have that, and I think therefore it's incredibly important that you demonstrate your professionalism, and that not just starts with your course design. Of course, dress code doesn't really affect your ability to judge. That said, I'm be wearing skirts and high heels on a practical level.
Yeah, I suppose you don't want to be running over to the contacts like that, do you?
Whether I'm wearing jeans or smart trousers does not change my actual judging on the day, and it certainly doesn't change my course design, but it is about setting that impression and showing the handlers respect for what they've come into the ring to do.
But even though you've been judging for a while, obviously you still do that, you still dress appropriately and stuff.
Obviously, my very last appointment, which was a stand-in at Inspire a few weeks ago, yes, I was in tracksuit bottoms, yes, I was in trainers, because I found out I was judging at 6 a.m. that morning.
Oh, no. What can you do?
In a hotel, so there was no chance. And so these things happen. But no, had I, on a normal appointment, I will have something that I wouldn't wear casually at home. So a nice top, no trousers. I might have to wear my Salomons, depending on the weather conditions. But yeah,
I suppose that's another one. If it's like chucking it down with rain or something, then you're going to be in your dry robe, and that's just how it is.
Because I don't own one.
Oh no!
But I'm in my waterproof. Exactly, I'll be in my waterproofs from head to toe, and you won't recognise me from any of the other competitors out there.
Yeah. But you're doing your job in that horrible weather, so respect.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to go shopping then because I live in agility clothes.
Well, that's one thing I enjoy about Crufts. It was I do dress, but I actually went out and bought clothes for Crufts, and it was nice to do because I teach. As you say, I teach full time. I'm in my scruffs 24/7, and it's quite nice to get dressed up occasionally.
Yeah, bit of a change, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the next one is, what is your favourite thing about judging?
The variety of people you get in your ring.
Yes.
Particularly find out things afterwards. So, these are maybe quite extreme examples, but I've had a person who's come into the ring, and afterwards I found out that was their first run in agility after life-saving neurosurgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I thought, holy hell,
unexpected.
How privileged was I to be part of that person's return to fitness type thing.
That's amazing.
One of the juniors I found, so I do remember her at the time, because I was thinking, looks quite inexperienced, obviously quite a new handler to agility.
Yeah.
And somebody messaged me to say I'd been on Breakfast TV on the Monday morning, and it transpires this girl, and on one of my judges' seminars, she got the dog because she also had to have neurosurgery, and she was getting a bit stressed in the anaesthetic room, and I think the consultant or the anaesthetist just said to mum and dad, look, say whatever she wants, just keep her calm, she won't remember a thing when she wakes up. And of course she was saying, well, can I have a dog? Yes, you can have a dog, darling, no problem.
Oh no, and she remembered.
Yes, apparently I think the first thing she said when she woke up was, when are we getting the dog?
That is brilliant.
So it is, and I choked up a little bit when I saw that on the TV. I didn't know it at the time, but I do remember quite an inexperienced handler, but you hear. So that dog and her relationship with that dog has been part of her recovery. I'm thinking, yeah, we really don't know half the stuff that goes on. Yeah,
no, I suppose you're not thinking about that when you're judging either. Everyone's got a different situation.
It's like, yeah, I got to be part of that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I can see why that's your favourite thing, 100%.
Because, people, you think about how, when you've had good events and good results.
Yes.
You might give some acknowledgement to the judge, but in reality, they've been part of that in your enjoyment of that. So
yeah,
it's quite lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So on the other end of that spectrum, if you had to choose a least favourite thing about judging, what would that be? Or the hardest thing?
I don't let it affect me. Oh, yes, I do, because I've got something to deal with at the moment. I have let it affect me personally. I don't tend to on the whole, but I do really, really struggle with dealing with social media.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You know, it's at the end of the day, we are running around a field with our dogs, jumping through hoops. Okay?
Yes.
Literally. It's not the end of the world. I've used examples in my seminar about, so and so who was, because of a poor decision, lost this event or lost that event. And if that's your biggest thing to worry about, then aren't you lucky that you don't have something bigger going on in your life?
Yeah, that is so true.
I struggle with, people not keeping it in perspective. But then also, I suppose on the flip side of that, their perspective is skewed because their life is really hard and they didn't need their agility at the weekend, which should be their release from that hard life, being a little bit affected by somebody's. But, if you want to make a comment, that's absolutely fine, but you'll have much more respect for that comment. People have much more respect for your comments if you have been in that position yourself. So.
Yes. And social media, people just use it to, there's always those people that just use it to complain. Yep.
Or they make suggestions that seem, of course that seems obvious and that's a great idea. Here are the practicalities of it. And I think that's very good. Greg is very good at clarifying that for people. They make these wonderful suggestions. Why don't we have diamond-tipped poles?
Yeah.
If we look at the cost of those diamond-tipped poles per ring, per show, it's going to be funding that. So the practicalities of really obvious suggestions, I think, it's very easy to make a flippant comment without backing it up with considered research, I suppose, on it.
Yeah. I think the scariest part of judging, I kind of can think of is, like I said, that, people being, nasty about your courses or the backlash, but...
I mean, they've got their right to do that. I'd rather they did it to my face and be respectful about it as well.
Than do it on social media.
The keyboard warriors.
Yes, so many of them.
Yeah. So, I have got there's something going on that's I'm usually very good at brushing it off, because they say for celebrities and actors, don't read your own reviews because you'll never feel better.
Yeah.
Guess that's the kind of thing what I do, but you can't help it, can you? You've got that wobbly tooth, you just have to go and poke it again and see what they've said about it now.
Yeah, curiosity.
Yes.
So do you have you had that a lot where, say, I know judges post their courses on Facebook after a show or something like that. Have you ever had people literally comment negative things about them? I
post my courses just through... It's just not something I do.
Yeah.
If there's loads of people ask me for courses in the run up to Crufts, and they were doing their prep, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that, but it's just not something, a habit I've got into. Maybe I will, I don't know. And as we say, the paper version, it could be. So there've been judges that have put up on paper looks amazing and looks really run that course, and it was awful because the course building was completely askew.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very aware of, that shiny, what is it? What's that saying? Instagram versus reality type idea. Of course, I can show you an amazing course that I designed, but I built the one very, very different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's what people don't see online.
Yeah, of course, it's very easy to put, edit everything out and put the good stuff on. But I just like to keep in mind what reality is often like.
Yeah. And I suppose if you put yourself out there in that situation, there's always going to be, you're always going to get a bit of hate, I suppose. But overall, it's worth it, I reckon.
Yeah, this might be something I do in the future. Finding the time is one thing, isn't it?
Yes, that's it.
But, yeah, and I don't mind, people have their... I'm very happy to have constructive conversations, even in disagreement.
Yeah.
Because all parties have respect for other people's opinion, which is rarely do I see that on Facebook. It's a novelty if you see a conversation on social media that has remained respectful and convivial and so on between opposing views.
Yes, true. And I suppose even if someone's saying bad things about you, at least they're talking about you, right?
Well, somebody else isn't getting it in the neck, I suppose. I've got big enough to take a little bit.
Exactly. So what is your favourite grade range and height to judge? So do you have a favourite height, or, what is your ideal height and grade?
I don't.
Okay.
So, because I suppose if you have a favourite, you then have to have a least favourite, and I don't have any of those either.
True.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to all heights. There's pros and cons to all grades. The lower grades tend to be much more polite, much more appreciative.
Yes.
Less
Yeah.
on the flip side, they can be quite frustrating because they'll be there in the ring for days.
Yes.
They quite know, as you said, etiquette. I get away with. But on the other end, you can have in the higher grade somebody that treats the ring party like they've just scraped them off the shoe.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a montage of clips of Usain Bolt when he's in the blocks, or he's gone onto the track and he's stripping off, and he's fist bumping the people that are stood behind him about to carry his basket of clothes. He's getting selfies with them, and I'm thinking, there's the Olympic world champion who is that polite and that at the Olympic final, and you can't even pass your lead politely to the ring party.
Yeah. Yeah, they have to lob it like halfway across the ring.
Don't hurt me, I'm in the zone. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
And remember that everybody is human and deserves the same respect.
Yeah. If Mo can do it, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
Not Mo. I was thinking of Mo Farah. It's Usain Bolt, isn't it?
But and again, he can be it's that humility, isn't it?
Yeah.
You are not a god just because you're in whatever class.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I suppose, for example, watching grade 6, 7 or champ is often, more exciting, say, than watching grade 1 to 3. So does it kind of go faster watching 6, 7 because you kind of feel like you're more spectating, or?
I suppose the difference is the exciting is diluted a lot in the 1 to 3s. Maybe. Yeah. There is still the same level in there, but there is way more of not that level. Yeah. So you will, I don't know, 10% of the dogs go around absolutely on fire, could win a class no matter what grade they're in. Yeah. And I suppose 7, you've only got those dogs. So I think it's the same when, people are looking at breeding their dogs and they always look at the dogs in 6, 7. And I've had so many conversations with people, don't just look at those dogs because they could be manufactured dogs.
Yeah.
Go and look at dogs in the lower grades and look at the ones with potential that maybe is never going to shine because of their handler. That's fine. But yeah, there is still brilliance to be had in the lower grades. You just don't. It's way more diluted, whereas it's quite concentrated in the higher grades.
Yeah, it's not as obvious, I suppose.
Yeah.
Have you ever I suppose you will start off, say you'll judge some grade 1 to 3, and then maybe a year later you'll be judging 6, 7, and you recognise some dogs that you used to judge when they were sort of in the lower grades. You're like, oh wow, they're now here doing, and you sort of see their progress.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the good things, and that's one of the things I love about teaching full time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a corny phrase, and it bugs the hell out of me. A journey. I'm on a journey. Oh, please. But I get it is very nice to be part of somebody's progression, either as their trainer, and you've seen one puppy come into your training, and then you've seen them get to whatever, and then the handler brings their next puppy. So that is a very brilliant part of what I do. And yet, likewise in judging, I remember judging. Tell you what, I judged Leanne Knight's medium Sheltie the other week.
Okay.
In grades 1 to whatever, a lower grade, a new youngster. Holy hell. I'm going to look forward to seeing him in champ next year. Yeah, exactly that. You've just reminded me of that one. Yeah, you can see brilliant dogs at the lower grades, and then you see them achieving what their potential is as well.
Yeah, I bet that is very rewarding.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you reminded me of that. Leanne, there's not many, because I see so many, there's not many dogs that make me go, wow. But Leanne's youngster, that medium black by black, flipping heck.
I'm not sure if I've seen that one, but she does have some great dogs.
Yeah, she's a bloody good. She's a good handler.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is, if it stays injury free, because I know one of her dogs, another brilliant dog she had I think he broke his leg tragically.
Oh God.
Stays injury free, and she stays relatively injury free.
Yeah.
That watch, I reckon.
Yeah. Have you ever been judging? On the note of injuries, have you ever been judging and witnessed a dog really hurt itself, or accidents like that, or even the handlers?
Yeah, no, because I wasn't there when so-and-so broke his leg. I wasn't judging when he broke his leg. That wasn't me. I mean, dogs have come a cropper, but as I tell people on the seminar, I will step in and not let them continue in case they are injured.
Yeah.
I have seen it when I've been queuing, so I saw and heard one dog's hock explode, basically.
Oh, God.
And it was just one of those horrible accidents.
Yeah.
It is hock. And that's just part of it. And I personally would rather my dog had an injury but got to enjoy the life that he did.
Oh, absolutely.
Than, never expose him to the life that he can have because I don't want him picking up an injury.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair compromise for me that with all my dogs. I mean, I'm not risk mad, but I'm quite risk averse, but I wouldn't lie up all night. If my dog got injured on an agility course, I wouldn't regret it thinking if he didn't do it, fine.
Well, I did a podcast with a physio recently, and we were saying that how, our dogs are just as likely to injure themselves out running around on a walk in the woods than they are on course. Do you know what I mean? And often, like with Arrow, he's had a few injuries over time, and it's actually never been on agility, touch wood. It's always just him throwing himself about on walks, and, you're not going to not walk them, are you? So
32 years in this game, God knows how many dogs, I can't remember the number. I think two actually. I've had 2 injuries that I know for sure came from agility.
Yeah.
But there's no, my dogs have had way more injuries and issues than that. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think people think, it's really dangerous, blah blah blah, it's unnatural, but actually no, they don't. It's not. Like they're no more likely to injure themselves doing that than anything else.
If you train them up right and you strengthen them right, then the unnatural becomes natural to them. So.
Yes, and obviously safe courses always helps.
Yep, definitely.
So back to the grade range and height. Just out of curiosity, do you not find like the large grade 6-7 more stressful to judge than say the small 1-3?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I genuinely don't. I'm not. When I was a teacher, results didn't bother me. I'm not interested in your results. I'm interested in your effort. So I would have as much job satisfaction from working with the A-star student who was planning to go to whichever high-level university or further education as I got from the E-grade student who was working their socks off.
Yeah.
And putting the best effort in, but was only ever going to get an E-grade. I got as much satisfaction from both ends of the scale.
Yeah. I'm more meant sort of stressful as in worrying about being more likely to potentially miss something, or, if the large 6-7s are faster, or, more likely to miss a running contact or something, as far as you having to get to one side of the ring to the other faster.
The high grades tend to be easier to judge because their behaviours are more definite, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so if they're going to get a good contact, and you don't even need a judge to see that. I remember Martin Reed, my first champ appointment, I did the small mediums. Dave DeVille did the intermediate, no, just larges then, I think it was. We used Dave's course, and Martin Reed went round, and basically Dave didn't need to be in the ring.
Oh, right.
It was with Spring, and there was nothing to judge. It was that good, that's quality. So yes, generally the higher grades, it tends to be very easy to judge because it's either so good or it's so awful. Yeah,
true. And I suppose you may be more likely to have to give loads of little refusals and stuff in the lower grades. So
yeah,
it's again,
it's the obscure. There's nothing as the lower grades don't tend to be as clear in their mistakes.
Yeah.
Hard to catch it. Well, what is that? Is it a refusal or is it something? But I'm not quite sure what it is.
Yeah, true.
And black and white, pardon the pun, with border collies in the higher grade.
But even then, you said as well, I remember on the seminar about, if you're going to make a judging decision, as long as you're clear about it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So whatever
that's all you can do.
Challenge you on that. You need to know what you're going to say was your reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Quite often, that was my interpretation of this rule.
Yeah.
And live with that. And if the handler is happy at that point, fine. If the handler isn't happy and takes it further, that's also fine. And even if the kennel club agree with the handler, that's fine.
You've given your reason.
I'll lose much sleep over it. I will do whatever the kennel club suggest within reason. So if they tell me that my interpretation is wrong and I need to amend it, if I'm happy to do that, I will. I'm not going to lose sleep on that sort of thing.
Yeah. I suppose, again, that's a bit back to the etiquette, portraying yourself confidently, being your strong hand signals, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your best piece of advice for those wanting to get into judging? So if someone's like competing and wants to do it, what is your best piece of advice for people wanting to start that?
So talk to experienced judges, but experience doesn't equal competence. So maybe talk to the championship judges because they have demonstrated competence at some point or another.
Yes.
They've all been assessed and shown to have a bit of an idea. obviously speak to the judges' trainers if you're aware of who they are. Speak to some people who you like their courses.
Yes.
Okay. So find that, if you can, find that. I mean, a lot of the lower grade people probably don't know anybody from Adam and Eve. But if you are thinking about it, you're going to be starting to make yourself more familiar with names and more familiar with styles.
Yeah.
And if you want to get into judging, why don't you become like an apprentice to a judge? So can I do your course design and sit with them or sit at their ring while they start judging and see what they do?
Yeah.
Actually flipping brilliantly. So Lucy Osborne Norton, whatever, sorry.
Yeah.
So she did some, what would you call it, training in the ring runs or course running nights, didn't she, up at Skellingthorpe?
Yes, yeah.
And she had a couple of judges. So that was a place for her to invite judges who were, so Fiona, my partner, did it before she got judging. Lucy with, what's she called? She judged at Skellingthorpe this weekend. Bugger, what's she called? Dawn Warnock.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Dawn was judging, and Lucy went round with Dawn before the class started and just talked her through what Lucy would do and why she would do it and what she was looking for. And I thought that was flipping brilliant.
Yeah, that's good.
So, and so cut your teeth, as they say, on more less official events like course running evenings.
Yeah. I did one of those with Lucy with Ethel in the summer, and it was Fiona judging the agility. And then it was Steve Atkinson, who was on the same seminar as me, doing the jumping. And I thought he was a judge already, but as well, I saw him do a few agility nuts, so, independent shows. And that's why I thought he was already a judge. So he turned up and I was like, I thought he was already a judge, but no, he'd just gone, I suppose, to get that initial experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say they've when they've passed the seminar, they're like, yeah, but I still don't feel confident enough to go out and judge at an event, so don't.
Yeah.
Or do get invited, make sure you're clear on what you are happy to do. Half a day, jumping only, lower grades only, although I do think they're harder, maybe the mid-range. But seek those opportunities of doing it where the stakes aren't quite so high.
Yeah. Less pressure as well then.
Those course running events, because they want to train their dog. They don't want to compete with their dog as such.
Yeah, 100%.
Not that bothered if you've made a mistake, because they're going to do whatever they wanted to do on that course anyway.
Yeah, their goal wasn't to win, it was to run it. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Get some practical experience when the pressure is less. Yeah. And there are loads, and this is, we talked about at the very beginning, how much has it changed over the years. Absolutely, this is one of the things. Accessibility, as in number of events, location of events. Back in my day, we would have, you more or less did get a show every weekend, but it wasn't local. And quite easy. So I would go to Shrewsbury, was at the beginning of May. Then you could do Beacon a week later down in Birmingham. I was living in the northwest at this point, so these were all quite local.
Is Beacon still a thing? I haven't heard of that for ages.
I don't think it is.
No, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was Beacon in May. Oh, then if you fancied a drive, you could come over to Nottingham at the end of May. But that was a bit of a journey, that was. So you could easily have a couple of weekends between your shows. Whereas now, you could do a show every weekend, probably 5 minutes from home for most of us. I get that some people live where that isn't quite so good. But that is one of the big changes. Not just in terms of cost, but, practical accessibility. Are there the events? Midweek events. Flipping it, there never used to be midweek shows. Oh, no, there was dogs.
Well, Dog Sports Derby is Monday, Tuesday, isn't it? And I've never actually, apart from obviously KCI Dogs in Need, but I've never come across that before.
The week long, but Laura with Dog Sports Derby has been doing, traditional one-day events, but midweek.
Yeah.
But she has the facilities. And look at the facilities. By the way, look at the facilities that have changed over the 30-odd years I've been in it.
Yeah.
No more muddy fields.
And the equipment as well.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Scaffolding planks. That's what contacts used to be made out of. Yeah.
No way.
I think that's literally where the dimensions have come from. I think. I don't quite. But if you think about it, the dog walk is about the width of a scaffolding plank.
Yeah. Everything's just a posher, newer version of that, I suppose.
Yep.
Wow. The roots of agility.
Oh, no.
And then another thing you were saying at the seminar was how you can get a mentor for your first few appointments.
in an ideal world, as you get your first appointment, you would have somebody on hand before the event to perhaps go over the courses with you. That person, hopefully the same person, will then also be available on the day to hold your hand a little bit and to give you some feedback on it. But in the real world, those people are volunteers. So what actually happens when we're looking for mentors is if you notify the Kennel Club to say that you've got these judging appointments, they then send out an email to, firstly, the judges' trainers.
Mm-hmm.
So-and-so is going to do their first show at these places. Can anybody go? And there's, like I say, there's 10 of us, so the likelihood of somebody being available is quite low.
Yes, yeah.
As far as I'm aware, the next thing the Kennel Club will do is go, okay, can't get a trainer, but what about any of the championship judges? Because, again, they've demonstrated some sort of competence. But, again, there's probably only, 40 of us? 40 champ judges, maybe?
Yeah, so the likelihood of you being free on that very day.
And also available, so not only am I going to be at the show, but am I going to want to do it? Because, I have a lot of caps to wear, so sometimes at an agility show, I'm only going to take my competitor's cap.
Yeah.
I do not want to be a trainer. I do not want to be a judge's trainer. And so it's just, and this is one of the big things about UK agility, we're a victim of our own success. We're not too popular. We're very popular because we're so accessible and inclusive. And that has practical complications. So you can't get a mentor. People say, I've got a mentor in so-and-so. And I see who so-and-so is, and I'm, oh, God, no, please.
Yeah.
But, social media does make people more accessible. So there's nothing to stop you putting up a shout saying, can somebody mentor me? Or, we don't want to do it publicly, but private message somebody that you do know or can get access to and say, so-and-so has agreed to mentor me. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah. Because
so-and-so might not appreciate what is involved. Mentoring about saying, well done, keep going.
Yeah, I suppose no mentor's better than a terrible one.
Yeah, very good. I say that in dog training. I would rather see something avoided than done badly.
Yeah, exactly. That is so true.
Absolutely good. Yeah, so ideally we can get those, but there's nothing, there really shouldn't be a barrier. So I've had, you've sent me courses. I'm just looking through the files we've had in our message conversation. I've got 4 or 5 courses there already.
Yeah.
Somebody that I put through the course last year in Dublin, she sent me a load of courses this week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much easier to just quickly back and forth go over those courses. Obviously, it doesn't help on the day, but I think the main thing that people want mentoring for is their course design.
Yeah, definitely. Because as well, it gives you more confidence thinking, well, this person who is a really good judge and has a really good reputation said my course is safe and suitable, so that's it really. You don't have to worry.
Down quite close to what it looked like on paper, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, there's really not a huge number of excuses that you couldn't have got advice from somebody who was in a better position to give advice. Yeah,
definitely. So what is your best piece of advice for someone attending their first judging appointment? So the last one was getting into judging. So if someone is about to go to their first judging appointment.
Yeah. So attending their first, hopefully they've had somebody go over their courses with them.
Yes.
And hopefully and also maybe try and get some help in getting that course built, because designing a course is one thing, building a course is another, unless you're doing the, what do we call it, coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Then rings aren't always square. I mean, if you've ever prepared a showground for a show, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah.
So everybody's doing their best. So definitely, hopefully, you've had your courses reviewed and you've had discussions around those. Get there early. If you're not there the night before, then get there early, because the last thing you want to be doing is trying to build your course when there's a crowd gathering.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So make it, do whatever makes your day as easy as possible or as less stressful as possible. So get there early. You might not have got a good night's sleep, but you certainly tried to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Not go and judge your first appointment steaming from the night before.
Oh, God.
You're just trouble, aren't you?
Yeah.
And do your best.
Yeah.
If you read that rule book the night before, rehearse the hand signals, and do your best.
And another thing you said about, so one thing I was going to say was when you obviously go to set up your course, say in the morning of the show you're judging at, I'm assuming you just walk around with your course plan and the ring party will bring you the equipment, put it where you want it to be. Do you get what I mean? Like it's a joint effort.
It is, yeah. I tend to, I've talked about And if shows ask me for my course plan, I will send it, but I'm now erring on the side of don't build it for me, because it probably won't be accurate enough, and I'll spend 4 times as long tweaking it than if I was building it from scratch myself.
Oh, do they sometimes build it for you before you get there?
Oh, all out for you, and then you come and tweak it.
Oh, okay.
I did give my course plan to North Derbyshire. I judged champ last year with a small and medium. Hannah messaged me for it, and there was a bit of a that was it. There was a bit of a cock up because it was the weekend the Queen died, and we didn't know whether we were going.
Oh yeah.
And by the time it was decided that the show was on, I couldn't be faced towing my caravan, so I decided to just day trip it. I sent my course to Hannah, but I said to her, put it out according to the coordinates, and I got the smarter agility to put the coordinates of each piece of equipment on. And when I got there, bless her, I got there at early o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning or something, I had very little to do.
Oh wow.
So coordinates is definitely the way to go, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Give Amanda Luckman all the credit for that. That's what they do at the major events. So if you see at the World Championships, they put a huge big measure tape top to bottom and side to side with the 0-0 in the centre of the ring.
Yeah.
And then out from the centre of those 2 tapes and play according to the coordinates on the course plan. You know, in theory, that can't go wrong then. But in reality, rings at our British shows aren't always square.
Yes. Like Dog Sports Derby, nice big long rectangle.
Oh yeah, deady.
I mean, at least you always know the size of it, because it's always the same.
It is. And Laura and Marita over at Ogilvy, they've done a phenomenal thing getting those venues established. Hope they're the first of, certainly not cheap by any means, and certainly not through, it is hard work what they've managed to do. Hopefully it's others will follow suit and we can get our venues up to a more professional level. But we've done all right so far, so we shouldn't necessarily...
And then another thing I remember you saying at the seminar was, people were stressing about thinking, oh, do I have to remember all the lengths of all the jumps and stuff like that? And then you said something about writing them on the back of a tape measure, which I thought was a good idea.
So somebody said, I think that might have been Andrew Dicker. Nigel Rudder's also got it on the back of one of his tape measures. So you could mark a little line on the back of the tape measure. Somebody produced on one of the Facebook pages a crib, a little table with all the measurements on, and I took a screenshot of that, and that now lives on my phone. So if you see me look at my phone when I'm walking my course, I am not necessarily answering a text or anything. I am checking what length the long jump is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, or you can have First Contact at Crufts. They had a piece of wood with measurements for the long jump marked on them and things like that.
But I suppose if the ring party's setting it up for you, then you don't really need to think about that, but...
Well, no, you should still be measuring things like your spreads and your long jumps.
Yeah.
Most of our tyres in the UK, they have set heights. So in the same way you have a set height for the jump. But if some of the... so Gallican tyre, it can be adjusted up to any height. So I would be double-checking that myself.
Yeah, I don't want it... Yeah. Don't want it back to 75 centimetres.
It's on the line if something isn't correct, so I would rather that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, that's very helpful for my first judging appointment.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it, to be fair. I'm not really sure what time to get there, though. So what time would you suggest people get there in the morning? Because I won't be able to stay the night before.
What time's it?
It'll be the usual... starts at 8:30, walks at 8 or whatever it is.
If it was me, my first show, I'd probably be getting there for just after 7.
Yeah. Yeah, solid hour. I suppose that's plenty.
I mean, Laura, just message Laura. She's open up. And Sarah Humphreys is often there. They will help you no end. Yeah. But my own peace of mind, I'm one of those people that hates being late, so I'm always going to be early.
Yeah.
I would rather than be sitting in my car having a cup of coffee for 20-30 minutes.
Yeah, same.
Knowing it's all done and not having... Because when people start coming through that door, it feels even more intimidating to be building, trying to do whatever's...
Yeah, and people get impatient, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing worse than rushing. No matter what you're doing, it's horrible. I'm not one to enjoy rushing around, so yeah, I'll get there nice and early. Go to bed nice and early the night before. Be all right.
Yourself the best. Do what makes the day gives you less stress.
Yes.
And if less stress is through an early night and an early start, then fine.
Another thing you said was about not every judge takes like a break in the middle of the day, like for lunch. You know, some rings will break for lunch for an hour, some just don't bother.
I mean, I do with me. If I've got the dogs, if you're leaving home, then maybe have a short.
Yeah.
Because usually most people are happy to get away earlier.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I suppose you don't want to be finishing at 8 p.m, but at the same time, it'd be nice to have a little bit of a sit down, something to eat.
I mean, you have time between when people are walking courses and that, but that would still only be maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you want a 20-minute, half an hour lunch, do that. Have a.
I suppose you're in charge, aren't you, as the judge?
I suppose I would advocate for having a longer break because you need to let your brain switch off.
Yeah, that's it.
And I need to do a bit of charge on the brain. So get out of the ring, go and get some sunshine if it's nice weather. Have a check on your phone, do something that lets you just switch off from the agility, and then 5 minutes before you're due to start, get back in, get focused.
Yeah, I suppose you can get a bit complacent as well, like naturally, if you're doing the same, with the repetitiveness of it.
I would say it's very easy to get caught in this. People always say this. Oh, my dog gets stuck in a pattern. It bugs the hell out of me because everybody's dog gets stuck in a pattern.
Yeah.
But it's very easy for the mind to get fixed.
Yeah.
And I know certainly I've been judging, and there's been, let's say I've had 6 dogs, one after the other, all being getting eliminated, and then the 7th dog comes up, and halfway through the ring you're thinking, oh crap, he's not eliminated, because your brain is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to do in the same way when I teach microscopes at work, at college, I do say to them, every few minutes you need to look up from the microscope and focus your eyes on the distance so that your eyes get relaxed, and same with the brain.
Yeah, definitely.
You need to switch that, stop focusing on what you're doing and focus on something completely different, and then go back to it and you'll be refreshed.
I suppose it's more mentally tiring than physically, but I mean, you probably still get a nice, decent amount of steps in during a day of judging, but...
Whatever, your smartwatch, and clock that up, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's nice to sit at the end of it and just go, and I'm done.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that is all of the questions.
That went well. Well, cool.
Thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you for that, dear.
So there you have it. There was my conversation with Nic Jones, all about judging. I learned so much from that conversation, and it was super interesting and fun to talk to Nic. So thank you again so much, Nic, for coming on the podcast and recording that episode with me. And before I say bye to you guys, I would just like to remind you to follow me on all the socials. I'll put them here on the screen on YouTube and down below in the description on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So follow along. I'm active on those every single day. Make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss another single episode. And if you could, please leave a nice, generous rating or review on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. That would mean the absolute world to me. And with that, I will see you all next Wednesday. And don't forget to keep giving me your feedback and more episode and guest ideas for the future. Thank you all to my listeners for watching these episodes. I'm having a great time with the podcast, and I appreciate all of you. Bye.